So I want to ask what seems to be a fairly straightforward question, but which has actually got quite a lot of depth to it. And that is, what is learning? Now, this is a term that we use pretty regularly, but what I find is that we often have some misconceptions about what we mean by the term, and that these misconceptions actually drive and cause some of the problems with the effectiveness of our learning. So if we can understand what we mean and what we want by it, we can start to address these problems, as we will do in this course. I like this definition. It's simple, but it really sums up a lot of what we're wanting to achieve. And that is that learning is acquiring knowledge and skills so that they are easily accessible for future problem solving and opportunities. I think it's best when we start to break this down into the component parts of the definition, of which I see there are four main ones. Firstly, it's a recognition that learning is about knowledge and skills which are chunks of information that we are taking on board. They can be theoretical, so we can say that we know that, or they are practical, and we can say that we know how. But regardless, these are components. We can take them on board, we can put them together, most importantly, and that they are things that we can manipulate and we can use for future uses, as we'll talk about. And we want those skills and knowledge to be stable. We want them to not notably decay over time. And we expect some decay. We know that we forget or we struggle to remember. But there are many cases where that decay is excessive, and that is a case where we haven't actually learned material. We've perhaps remembered it briefly, or we've partially learned it. But that is not the same as learning. Learning is stable over time. Learning will be with us. We have encoded it deeply into our brains, and we can access it in the future. Because the third point is that it is all about future use. We don't really have learning for the moment that we're learning it. It's not about that. It's about these future problems that we need to solve. And this is where there's a real problem with learning, is that we don't have a great time appreciation. We don't recognize part of this is the stability we just talk about, but we think I can do this now, I'll be able to do it later, when in fact we often can't. And true learning is about being able to put that within us to use in the future. And that leads on to the fourth part. This has to be internal to us. These are skills and knowledge that we have available to us at all times, and that don't depend on external resources such as textbooks or you doing a Google search. We have to have them available. This is really well summed up by its antithesis, which is the illusion of knowledge. And this is a cognitive illusion that we all suffer from to some degree. But if we don't understand what learning is, it's particularly problematic. And the illusion of knowledge is basically, it's what I really said before. It's the idea that you know something better than you actually do, that you think it is more firmly held within you, or that you know it in greater detail. And that is a type of learning and type of knowledge. I use the term learning in the incorrect way there, because it doesn't actually fulfill a lot of the goals that we have from learning, from our definition of learning. We can't use it in the future to solve problems. It's not very stable over time, and we don't have it particularly well entrained within us. And this is a huge problem for what we think is learning. It's actually an illusion. And a lot of the course is about using techniques and understanding techniques that cause true learning, not the illusion. And so that's what we want to do. We want to use this definition to try and start to understand our brains now, and understand how does it learn? How can it best achieve those learning goals that we've set in our definition? What are its limitations? Are there any? I think there are definitely some limitations, but we'll be surprised at the power of our brain for learning. And I think we want to know where the boundaries are, but know what we can really achieve. And we're going to strike that balance. We want to say, how can we learn most effectively while staying within the confines of what is optimal for us? And that is a focus of the next lessons.